Hi.
I just heard.
I just.
As soon as I could.
I came as soon as I wanted to.
I wanted
Here we
to.
go. Starting out the podcast strong. We all know that I'm recording this time. This is not a cold open like we usually do. I told you when we're starting.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Wow, gaslight him.
Yeah, gaslight me. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first Pride special episode of What Do the Gays Think. It's Pride Month. Happy Pride Month,
Gays
y'all.
in the house.
Did I say the name of the podcast?
No.
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 It's this level of professionalism that people come for, mama.
That's it.
Oh, yeah,
That's it.
absolutely. This is the What Do the Gays Think podcast.
Oh, I was waiting for him to say under queer review.
No.
I was waiting for him to say, this is under queer review. I'd be like,
Queer review. Back to one.
That's our other podcast. No, this is What Do the Gays Think. Thank you all for tuning in. I am Matt, and today with me, I have my Quaxley loving Pat. How are you doing, Pat?
didn't you bring up Quaxley last time?
Yeah, I just love the Quaxley blushie. I'm sorry.
It's great. It's great. It's up there in the
Where is
corner.
it?
I'll point to it for
Oh,
those
yes,
watching on
yes.
the YouTubes. I'm lovely. That's not true. I've had like terrible times at work recently. It's a lot of work. The summertime is when the plants grow. And that means I have to go out there and watch them grow. So I'm out there. I was out there in the
Literally watching
morning.
grass grow.
I got in at 8, right? And it was really cold, so I had a jacket on. And then, of course, we're working for 4 hours outside. So when it hits around 10, 11, it gets very, very warm. And I'm taking off clothes. And I didn't have sunscreen at first, so my left arm got a little red. And I put sunscreen on. And I keep working.
Wendy?
But anyway, we were also joined by the craftsmen themselves, Jackie.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh,
For the record, my Pokemon starter was Sprigatito, and I gave it an Everstone so that it cannot evolve into that monstrosity of its later evolutions.
Did it become bipedal? I don't even remember.
Yes, it did.
Yes, yes. That's
It
why I
became
didn't.
bipedal.
That's why I gave it an Everstone. I was like, I'm not having this.
I'm a
I'm not.
Sprigatito hater. No, that's not true. I don't hate
Why?
Sprigatito.
So you lied.
I hate the later level evolutions, but not
Yeah,
Sprigatito
agreed.
itself, I would say.
Sprigatito's so cute. They're just a little plant kitty.
Quaxley turns into a like ballerina fighter, which I love.
I
like
love
a
that.
like a dancer, like a
Raging
salsa
queer as
dancer.
well.
I love that.
Well, that's to be decided by each
Canonical.
Quaxley. Not every Quaxley's born gay.
True. But most
Unlike
are.
me.
But most are. There
Yeah.
are some species of animals where like 80% of the animals, I forget which one, there's a species of animal where 80% of them are gay. And
It's
I was
our
like,
friend group.
wow. It's our friend group.
It's our friend group, mama.
I'll have to look up which one. I think it was like a bat or something. I'll have to remember. Anyway.
Batman gay, confirmed.
Anyway, this is the first Pride special episode that we're doing.
Of 2023. We do this every year. So if you are new here, go back the past, 2 years? 3 years?
Yes, the past two years.
We do Pride specials every June. And there's a lot of hand movement going on for those watching the video. And back then, we were, episode a week. Now we're not so much doing that. But you will still get Pride content, even more gay content. It's like gay plus, like Disney plus, but gay plus.
What would that be?
Gay
Like,
plus.
Because it's like
What would you
it's
get on that streaming platform?
yeah.
you would get Love Victor.
No, thank
Wait,
you.
No, I don't want
thanks,
that
actually.
one. I don't want that one. Disney can keep it.
No.
Disney can keep it. I don't claim it.
This Pride Month, we are uplifting all queer content.
No.
Right.
Even
That
no,
one has some bad messages though.
no, it's just different messages.
No.
Not Vampire in the Garden.
That's not allowed either.
For those discussions, check out our other podcast under Queer Review.
Yes, where we talk about the latest and greatest in queer media. But the special thing about this episode, which you probably already know if you're reading the title of the episode, we did an interview with transgender activist Erin Reed, who has a newsletter and posts a lot about anti-trans legislation and gets all that information out there. So we're going to play that interview for you now, and you can go ahead and listen to that, and we'll come back and we'll wrap up in a little bit. See you then.
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty
Good. How are you?
It never stops.
I can imagine. We were just talking about your dog. What kind of dog is it?
Border Collie.
Oh,
cute.
Yep.
Yes. We
Violet.
all have dogs, so we are obsessed immediately.
I have one dog. I have one cat, and Zoe has two cats, and they are staying here in DC for now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because she's visiting for a little bit of an extended period.
Oh, that's
Nice.
nice.
Oh, very nice. I did want to say also congrats on the engagement.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Exciting.
So thanks, Erin. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us.
Yes.
Thank you.
I figured we could do some like quick introductions real quick. So maybe Erin, you can go first. For those who don't know, what do you do?
Yeah, so my name is Erin Reed. I'm a journalist and activist. I cover LGBTQ legislation as it moves all over the United States and around the world even. I track healthcare resources for the community in maintaining an informed consent hormone therapy map, making it easier to access gender-affirming care for trans people. And I report on all of the major news that all of the bills that you've probably heard about targeting the trans and queer community this last year and for the last several years.
Yes.
Yes.
A lot going on.
Indeed.
Matt, would you like to have a little intro?
Sure, I'll go. So, Erin, we had a couple of chats over email, but I'm Matt. I use he, him pronouns. I actually have a master's in data analytics, and I kind of work in the field of data science, which
Amazing.
is why some of the work that you've done and a lot of the data visuals that you've produced that piqued my interest.
Amazing.
So, yeah, that's all really interesting, and I'm excited to get to chatting about that. Also, I'm raging queer.
What?
Love it.
And an adamant supporter of LGBTQIA rights. And especially during these last few months, I always want to like stir up these discussions because it's all very important. So I'm looking forward to having these discussions with you.
Awesome.
I'm Jackie. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a designer. I specifically have become really fond of user experience design and also the physical design of spaces and how they impact our emotional well-being, as well as eco and green design for a sustainable future.
Great. Wow, you were so succinct. Like you have that ready. I'm Patrick. I don't do anything near what you guys do. Sorry. I currently do research out of Rutgers University. I study plant biology, but I have a vested interest, obviously, in LGBTQI plus rights. Obviously, I followed the news and unfortunately the pretty depressing news recently of it. But we love doing this podcast. We love trying to share as much information as we have possible. And we're happy that you're able to be here and hopefully share even more information and insight because we're more, we're not super professionals when it comes to this sort of legislation and all this information, but we do want to help spread as much information about it as possible.
Of course. Well, I am here for that. Thank you so much.
Great. So I guess I'll kick things off. I really wanted to know particularly about like your path through being an advocate for LGBTQI plus rights. If there was like a particular moment or a particular memory or situation that really sort of galvanized you to sort of start down that path, or is it just sort of a collection of life experiences?
Yeah, so a lot of my early activism, and I'm talking about like my very, very early activism whenever I was like a teenager, was coming from a place of not being able to fully share myself with the world, but still trying to ensure that the world that I was growing up into would be better. And so, I identified as trans as a teenager, but I did not let other people know that about me, or most other people know that about me. A very few select few did. And I knew that I couldn't be publicly out in South Louisiana, rural South Louisiana in the 90s. It just wasn't a possibility. And so, I joined the Gay Straight Alliance. I ensured that like I was doing everything I could in terms of like spreading awareness of the LGBTQ issues. And that was kind of what my early sort of like teenage years were like. Now, fast forward several years, and I transitioned at the age of 29, fully and legally, medically, etc. And I very quickly realized that the healthcare resources that were available to the community were very segmented, siloed, and hard to access. So whenever I transitioned, in order to obtain my hormone therapy, I drove 6 hours round trip, and I live in the DC area. I drove all the way up to Pottstown, Pennsylvania, to pick up my hormone therapy at a Planned Parenthood clinic there. And I knew that it was possible to obtain hormone therapy via informed consent, which is like a process that lets you get it easily. But the addresses, the resources, like where these clinics were, was all word of mouth and like hard to find. So I mapped them out, and that was kind of what launched it for me, because prior to mapping out all of these healthcare resources, like, I was tweeting about my life experiences on Twitter, but that was it. I wasn't really doing any sort of mega activism or anything like that. After making the map, my account blew up because people were like, oh, like there's good resources here. But also, as my account blew up and as people started to come to me with, hey, you forgot this clinic, you forgot that clinic, I gained connections in all of these different cities and states. And then they started telling me, hey, I sent you this clinic. There's a law that they're coming up with right now.
Oh, yeah.
To target us. And so I'd read the laws. I got used to understanding like what was in these laws. Like, I connected with activist organizations that were also trying to open more clinics in some of the clinic deserts. And it just all kind of snowballed, like it went from like this one little pet project to like all of a sudden I'm reading laws and understanding them, to talking to activists in every state, to maintaining like a stable of people that I can just go to for everything. And now, I started reporting on TikTok. That my account blew up on TikTok. And I started writing a newsletter, Erin in the Morning, where I cover all of the legislation all over the United States.
Yeah, it's definitely empowering to see that kind of like collection of information that's becoming more readily and really accessible. Because I think particularly, with LGBTQ groups, it's hard to even find some of the more basic information that we'd like to have. Our histories in a classroom, obviously. Things like sex ed obviously is not taught in that kind of way in high school. So just getting some of this more basic information can be so difficult. Have a resource is really just great to have it all in one spot for people to find.
Absolutely. And you mentioned like histories and classrooms and stuff. And obviously like there's the very obvious issues with that, like the Don't Say Gay bills and things that ban discussion and on gender identity and sexuality in the classroom. But like, this is something that's been a problem since long before the Don't Say Gay bills. I, especially whenever it relates to like queer history in general, like there's so much queer history that has been papered over, that has been not taught in schools. I mean, everything from the fact that the very first human author in all of humanity in ancient Sumeria, in Hedwana, whenever the first time symbols were pressed to tablets to tell a story, was telling a story about a group of transgender priests and priestesses.
Oh,
wow! I didn't know that.
Roman history, Elagabalus, there was a transgender empress that you never learned about. And in 1930s, whenever you in history and in your high school history classes, you probably saw black and white pictures of Nazis burning books in the 1930s. They never tell you what books they were burning. They were burning the Institute of Sexology's books, which were the first 30 years of research into transgender people and LGBTQ people. And so, like there's so much queer history that just gets completely left out. And there's dozens more examples of this. And like, we have always been here. We're part of what it means to be human. LGBTQ people, we have always been here. And so, yeah, it is important to like tell our stories and get our stories out there.
How did you come to learn about those historical, references? Which was it just kind of picked up over time as you dug into your passion for activism?
Yeah, I think that as I connect it with the modern day stories that need to be told, and I see the ways in which transgender people are both targeted but also resilient, and LGBTQ people are dealing with these large swings in like what we can do and what we're allowed to do in public. I started trying to look into history, because history is a guide. We can look into history and see where we come from, what is my community. And I think that like building up the fact that we as a people, LGBT people, have a history and we are not some sort of modern day fad or invention. It helps, I think, many people find peace and comfort within their own identities. Because it's one thing to like be individualized in the here and now and to not know, like, are you normal? Are you okay as an LGBTQ person?
Yeah.
But it's another to know, to read the past, to look into the past and read the stories from a long time ago and to realize that you're part of something that has been here for the whole time. You're part of the DNA of what it means to be human. And no matter what, like, no matter what the laws do, like, we will always be here.
Mm-hmm.
I find that really inspiring because I think I had a similar journey at one point with feminism and, taking a feminist course in college. And I had this idea in my head, like, oh, like, there weren't ever matriarchal societies, or like, it wasn't ever like this in history. And learning that, one, that's incorrect, and two, that there's so much in history that we don't know that has been overwritten. And in realizing that and acknowledging it, it became so freeing. Like, there's so much out there, and I felt a much deeper connection with all the people who came before us.
And I think that this is such a good example of why trans-exclusionary feminism and non-intersectional feminism fails so fundamentally.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the stories are similar. The ways in which our contributions are wiped out and erased are similar. The ways in which we are targeted by patriarchal power structures are similar. The same groups that are responsible, for instance, for banning the abortion pill in Texas are the same ones that are pushing the gender affirming caravans. And they're using the same mechanisms to do it. They're using trap laws that say that, like, you can't provide care at this time. You can't provide care without this form. You can't provide care. They're trying to, legislate it out of existence. And likewise, the ways in which we fight back against the bills and the features of society that marginalize us are also the same. We see, for instance, these bills that essentially make states safe refuge states for people seeking abortions or for people seeking gender affirming care. And they're both in the same bill because there's a recognition that these are the same issue. And it's the same way on the other side around. Far right conservatives recognize they're the same issue. And in fact, they will say they in order to pass a gender affirming care ban in Nebraska, because it was filibustered for like 81 days, what they did to convince the last Republican to sign on to it, because he didn't agree with the gender affirming care ban, was they added a 10-week abortion ban to the bill. And then they both passed together, because that Republican was against abortion but not against gender affirming care, and there was one that was basically against one and not the other, so they added abortion to it. And it was clear, like, these are part and parcel, same issue.
It's kind of a good segue into our conversation about some of the information that you provide, Erin, in your newsletter and also on Twitter. Specifically those heat maps that you create, which is a vital resource to a lot of people. And it's like really the first kind of newsletter like that I started following, because I was really invested in like keeping track of all this anti-trans legislation. So I'm very interested, like, can you describe your process around creating those heat maps and, keeping track of that legislation?
So number one, like, I love maps. I think the maps are really cool. I think they're a good data visualization tool for people that kind of want to see the geographic spread of things, etc. And these bills are very geographic in nature. They are introduced in local legislatures. There's been almost no movement federally on this issue. It's been almost entirely in state legislatures. And so, I do have a map, and I've got a few, but my main one is the legislative risk map that essentially will help people determine if their state is safe for the next 2 years for them if they are trans. And the reason why I made it is because I kept on, I started mid last year getting messages from people in very harsh states asking, is it safe to be here? Is it time for me to leave? And then where should I go to? And every single person may have a different answer, because maybe you can't move clear across the country, but you can move to a slightly safer state just across the border. Maybe, safe for one person might be not as safe for another. And so essentially, instead of answering each person individually, because to be quite honest, I'm still getting inundated in these messages of like, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I made this resource to make answering that question easier for everybody, because what it does is it says, yeah, you can leave. If you go to this other state, are you okay with the fact that there's a high risk that within 2 years they're going to be exactly where you are now?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you okay with a medium risk? Like maybe your risk tolerance is such that you can make that call.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have watched as my map has turned from medium risk to high risk to the worst laws enacted. And in fact, just this last week, I had to add an entirely different color to my map, and it was essentially a do not travel, because the Equality Florida, this is for Florida, I had to color Florida a darker black hatched line, sort of red color. And that was because Equality Florida issued a travel ban or a travel advisory for Florida. I also issued very similarly. And that was because for the first time in 7 years, we've got a bathroom bill that will result in the mass arrest of trans people in bathrooms. And so, it's become unsafe. And there are organizations and conferences pulling out of that state now. But the way that I do it, I have activists in every single state. I have basically an email, a collection of emails and Twitter handles and phone numbers and signal handles that I can just text anytime I want to know about a state. And I track every single state. I watch hundreds of hours of hearings on this issue. And I've got in my opinion, I've got probably the best grasp of anybody on where all of these states are going collectively. I have basically every single bill that has popped up memorized. I know that 1040 in Arizona is a drag ban. I know
awesome.
that 254 in Florida is a gender affirming care ban, etc.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And I just want to say that sounds like a lot of work. I'm very impressed. And don't stress yourself out too much, because it sounds like a lot of work.
It never stops. It never stops. And the thing is that I left my job, my full-time job, in October of last year. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew that I had 2 months money saved, and I knew that I had to do something with all of this, because I knew that the community would come under attack. At the time, I didn't know if I was going to make an organization or if I was going to join an organization, but I just started writing, and my Substack blew up. I've been blessed to be able to be the one to report this out, to be the one to get this information into the mass media. And at this point, I've got national reporters that follow my Substack now that report on the things that I report on. And I just, it was quite a big jump for me. But it has, like, you leave your job and you think about doing something like this and like controlling your own hours, et cetera, and like being your own independent reporter. But I have far less time than I ever have.
Yeah, I'm sure it's all encompassing at this point.
Yeah, it's wild. It's really wild. And I feel bad about it, because I'm 2 weeks behind on every email. Like, I have urgent emails that are 2 weeks old, and there's nothing I can do, because literally every single email I get is like a lawyer in a place that's looking for plaintiffs. It's a person who's experiencing an urgent need to go somewhere. It's the Associated Press that needs comment on a story. Like, it's nonstop. And I do what I can. I think that the biggest thing that I need to be able to do is to be there for the community, because right now we need people standing up for us. And I think that, like, it's the same thing with my fiance, Representative Zoe Zephyr, who is visiting right now, which I'm very happy to pick her up from the airport. And she does it too, and her schedule is just as busy as mine. But like, the stakes are so high. And,
yes.
We try to practice self-care. We have our own things that we do to decompress.
I was just about to ask, like, if it sounded at first like writing was maybe a solace for you initially, and I was just about to ask, like, how
it's still something that, like, I'm proud of my work. I love what I do. I wouldn't be doing anything else in the world. It does keep me busy, but I wouldn't be doing anything else in the world. But self-care is really important, and I think that, like, I have learned that in going through what was essentially one of the biggest ringers of my life in the first 6 months of this year with the legislative cycle. This was the hardest legislative cycle that I've ever seen or covered. 500 something bills, literally more bills this year than all the rest of American history targeting LGBTQ people in this one year.
Yeah,
And so, yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say it kind of felt, at least from our perspective, like we're watching kind of decades of activism and movement towards protecting our rights kind of being torn to shreds within a matter of months. So it seems like incredibly scary in that aspect.
And it's I so self-care is really important, and for me it might be like a Dungeons and Dragons game that I run weekly with my friends. It might be playing
yes.
Zelda.
Nice.
Yes.
Zoe and I are playing Breath of the Wild for our first time right now.
Oh, that's so
nice.
good.
We've got a joint save where we just play and we hand the controller off to each other.
Aw.
That is amazing.
That's so
So,
sweet.
like we have our fun things that we like to do. I take my son out to go to the park almost every day, and yeah, like that's it's so important.
Yeah.
And yes, there is like this big attack on our rights, and it does sometimes feel like it's being torn to shreds, etc. But this isn't the first time. Like we've been through, as a community, we've been through this before, and we inherit a strong tradition of activism and resilience. Whether it be the drag bans in the 1950s and 60s that were used to raid gay clubs, which is what got us Stonewall, which is what got us Pride, or the 1980s and the ACT UP era, where we had to demand that our joy was worth saving because we needed AIDS research, we needed HIV research, and we stood in front of churches and buildings and streets, or the 90s and the 2000s, where we had detransit or ex gays that are just like the modern detransitioners, and we had the same slurs used. Instead of groomer, it was recruiting. You were recruiting gay straight alliances in high school, where we're recruiting kids into becoming gay.
Yeah.
And we saw 32 gay marriage bans in the United States in 2002 to 2005. It felt just as bleak then as it does now. I remember being an activist back then and like looking at 32 states passing gay marriage bans, and it was horrific,
Yeah.
But we still prevailed, and we still found community. Pride parades got bigger. We still met in our clubs, and we've never stopped.
Yeah, I was really interested in making sure that I commend you for basically your positiveness, because we're talking about all these very hard and kind of charged topics and hearing how bleak things are, but you're still delivering them with like a fantastic, you're smiling and talking about your self-care routine and playing Zelda, and I think that is really fantastic and wonderful for doing the hard work that you are doing and kind of witnessing all these states go through these very hard times.
But like I do see all that, but it's not all just one story. There is, I have also tracked like 13 or 14 states that have improved their laws for LGBTQ people. I've seen places like Washington make gender affirming care a right and allow you to travel to their borders and seek solitude and safety from all of these laws. I've seen Minnesota flip. I've seen Michigan's entire state legislature flip over anti-trans ads that were used in that campaign. The Michigan GOP chair admitted that, the anti-trans ads hurt them because they spent more money on attacking LGBTQ people than they did on talking about the economy and healthcare, et cetera.
Right.
Like these, I truly think that, the arc of the universe bends towards justice, and in bending that and doing that work ourselves, and the activists in these states, both the red ones and the blue ones that are fighting for this, that's where we can still find joy. We can find joy in the work and the people that we get to form those relationships with while doing this work. And I will say that I just got back from Florida. I went to Florida. I spoke at West Palm Beach. I went on the beach with Zoe. We were out there on DeSantis's home turf. You know what? I saw tons of queer joy there.
Yes.
People are suffering. It is hard there for people, but it never fails. We always find our community and we stand up for our community.
Yeah, it's really inspiring, honestly.
Yeah, and it's really hard right now for a lot of people, especially like you said in Florida. So I guess the next burning question that I have is more around like, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? Hopefully we can see a lot of these bans being overturned, but is there hope for a reversal in the near future?
Absolutely. We just got some of the best news ever today, which was that Florida's gender affirming caravan was defeated and blocked in court. And that just happened today, this morning. Like, the thing is that these bills are blatantly unconstitutional. And like we've seen Tennessee, the drag ban got enjoined there. We saw Indiana, the pronoun ban got blocked in Indiana. The sports ban got blocked in West Virginia. The child abuse provisions got blocked in Texas. They do not have a good winning record on these issues. They really don't, like in the courts. And even Republican judges, even Trump judges, have essentially sided against these laws. And so, yeah, I think that like we're gonna see victory eventually on this. And I don't know what the Supreme Court's gonna do. You know, the Supreme Court could come back with a really poor ruling and set us back for some time. But I truly do think that like at the very least, the way that culture is moving, the way that society is moving on this issue is so out of step with the legislation that like the government's going to have to catch up, because we're going to exist. We're going to continue to defend our rights, and states that continue to pass these laws are going to see their people suffer. Like not just trans and queer people. Like, you know, I saw in Mississippi there was a school that banned a trans girl from wearing the dress code for girls for graduation, which was a dress, and she was forced off the stage. What happened though the very next day is that a cisgender girl was forced to wear a dress. She didn't want to wear a dress. And, you know, like people are going to understand that like this affects everybody. It's important to maintain that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say one thing, because we mentioned like how this is something we've seen again and again. I was just browsing through Twitter earlier today. And I saw a comparison from, you know, back in the 70s. It's like, you know, gay people are corrupting our children. And then, you know, side by side parallel image of Marjorie Taylor Greene saying a very similar thing with a sign that says, you know, they're grooming our children. So I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, because we kind of overcame that in the past. And the parallels, history kind of repeats itself. So that's where I also see that there might be light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep, I saw that same picture. And I mean, this is not the first time this has happened, but like, and we've faced darker times, and we'll keep fighting. You know, I think that we will build places where we can be safe, and we will fight in the places where we're not. And that's the simple fact of the matter.
Well, I think I have a question for you, which is in the interest of promoting information and connecting each other with more aspects of our community. Is there anyone in the LGBTQIA community, content creator, activist, politician, or otherwise, who you think more folks should tune into or start following what they do?
I mean, there's quite a few. I definitely think like follow Black and brown trans people. I think that's really important. Amara Jones at Trans/Podcast, Carly Webb at Outsports. There's a number of other, you know, people that are doing really good work on this. You know, Alejandra Carvalho is, you know, talking about the legal stuff online. Jillian Brandsetter, Trace Strangio at the ACLU are doing amazing work. Ari Drennan at Media Matters is doing amazing work. There are so many good people, but let me also say that don't just follow like activists and politicians, etc. Like, it's so important that we make sure that our media diets are inclusive of marginalized people. And so, you know, like I'm talking about your entertainment media. Read queer authors, watch queer movies. You know, Amy Schneider on Jeopardy was one of the best bits of activism and representation we ever could have asked for. And it wasn't because she was up there talking about trans rights. It was because she was winning at Jeopardy. And like people could watch her with their families and see how their families reacted to help them come out to their own families. And so, you know, if you are LGBTQ, like, yeah, if you want to be an activist, it's great. We always need more people doing the work. But also, like, there's tremendous value in just doing the things that you love and being an authentic, happy person and showing the world that, like, you can be queer, you can be gay, you can be trans and still do really cool things and be like this person that is respected and loved by their community.
I think that's fantastic advice, that it is not just about our political power, but just being ourselves and involved with the people that we love and making those new connections.
Absolutely.
Yeah, spreading some queer, gay, lesbian, trans joy is probably the best way, at least in your immediate vicinity, I feel like, just to get people who may not be quite attuned to that sort of on their radar. So like you were mentioning queer films, obviously queer books. I've tried to include more in my diet, obviously. Sometimes it can be hard to find them, although Barnes & Noble does have those sections which are pretty great for queer, usually romance stories or queer sort of what do you call it, fiction stories. But do you have any in particular, a film, a book, a series, even a musical artist, any that you recommend?
First let me say before like I recommend any specific, watch Disclosure on Netflix, because they have a ton of information about how our media diet really changes how we perceive transness and queerness, etc. And it shapes a ton, and they make such an amazing case. But like read the 5th season, N.K. Jemisin, Black queer author, is amazing. Becky Chambers has a lot of inclusive writing. There's a children's book called Red, a crayon story, and it's actually really amazing to read to kids, to show them about LGBTQ people, and it has nothing to do with LGBTQ people. Instead, it talks about a crayon who is very clearly a blue crayon, but with a red label. It's all about how like they continue to get this crayon to try to draw strawberries, try to draw cherries and color cherries, and like they're never very good at it. And
right.
One day, like this other character asks this crayon to draw an ocean, and it's just this beautiful story. And it was actually, it's like it has such relevance to trans and queer people, but it also from my understanding, I've heard that it was actually written about neurodivergence, and so like like it all matches. Like there's so much carryover between all of the different communities on this kind of stuff, and so just making sure that like your entertainment diet for you, your kids, your family includes marginalized voices. And these stories are interesting. They're fun. They're really amazing to get involved with. So yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Yeah, all of us just got done watching the Owl House.
Heck yes, Owl House is an amazing rep.
Yes,
I love the Owl House. My son loves the Owl House. He cheered. It was so great.
I was like crying. I wasn't like crying. I was crying. I was sobbing.
Yes.
I was sobbing at the end of Owl House.
I'm so happy it got. I mean, I was unhappy that
I hear Owl House.
Yes, I was so unhappy that it got like a shorter ending, but I'm so happy it ended very just positively.
Yes,
very light, lovely time.
I was so worried. So worried.
Yes.
Does your son have a favorite character in Owl House?
Oh, I don't know. Probably Luce.
Yeah,
I love
good choice. Good choice.
Solid choice.
Oh yeah, the entire rating of that show. Not to derail us too much.
I was
yeah. I don't know. I don't have words. Obviously, it's just it's a wonderful show, and I love it so much.
Yeah.
I did want to I have one more question, because you mentioned playing D&D, and we had
we had some unhinged, less professional, quote unquote, questions to ask you. So we really want to dig into this.
Let's go.
Yes. Yeah.
The one around D&D was just like, do you have a particular class or play style that you gravitate towards when you play D&D?
So I am actually a forever DM. I much prefer to DM than play. But when I play, I generally tend to swing towards magic users. Generally tend to use my last character that I played was a scribes wizard who was actually in the Eberron campaign setting.
Oh, fun!
And she was a war crime hunter.
So
she has like this little black book of all of the people that committed war crimes, and that's her whole thing.
I love that.
One by one.
I would love to have that in real life too.
That is great. Yes.
What are other other ones?
You also mentioned Legend of Zelda, obviously.
Oh, yes.
Tears of the Kingdom just came out. Breath of the Wild was before it. I mean, amazing games, just lovely to be in. But you said you like alternate with your partner, right? Like you take turns. That is so wholesome, and I wish I had something like that. That is so sweet.
It's really fun. We both have not played Breath of the Wild. She's played a lot of the other Zelda games, but like she's been busy. I've been busy for the last couple of years, and we never have had a chance. And so we made it so that she has her Switch on the TV, and she plays up till a certain point. I watch her play, and then if she has her own play style that she likes to do, like so she'll search for all of the shrines everywhere.
Oh yes,
and I just like to hunt and cook.
Yeah, oh great! This works out perfectly. Then.
It really does.
Gather the herbs. No, it really does, because like so if I play, like I make it so that whenever she does all the battles, she can have all kinds of
all the food
power ups.
That is like such like a love letter in and of itself in like the modern age, and that I can't express how wholesome that is. That is so wholesome.
It's pretty
yes, that's horrible.
Oh my gosh. Do you have any other video games that you're playing, or I know like you have just so much free time?
Right now, I've been playing a little bit. So she's been gone back in Missoula and stuff, back in Montana, because we do live apart. I live here in Maryland, and she lives out in Montana. But whenever she's gone, I don't want to play Zelda without her, and so the game that I will turn to whenever I have my tiny bits of free time is Slay the Spire.
Oh, yeah.
Roguelike game, deck builder, sort of like really fun. I don't know. It can burn up a ton of time. I love it.
Nice.
I've heard of that. That's awesome.
Great. Well, I know we've taken up a bunch of your time already, so if anyone else has a quick question, or we could just start wrapping up. Matt or
I'm
Jack?
trying to think of anything else that we had. What?
Any burning questions? Nothing.
I don't think so. I feel like I could talk to you. Like we could ask you 50,000 questions.
Yes, but your time is very valuable,
yes.
and we're very grateful that you took some time here to talk to us. We really enjoyed.
Deeply appreciative.
Yeah, I don't think there are words to describe how much of an asset you are, and particularly your, the maps you make and the information that you have. It's pretty unbelievable.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. So this is our signing off. Thank you very much for joining us. And please, plug anything of yours so our listeners know where to follow you and find you, of course.
So I cover on several different platforms. I'm at ErinInTheMorning on Twitter and on TikTok, ErinInTheMorning on Instagram. And lastly, if you want to stay away from the social media feeds and the algorithmic feeds, my most in-depth stuff comes in my newsletter, which is ErinInTheMorning.com. And this is essentially, I don't paywall any of my content. If you feel like being a paying subscriber, great. But like, I just try to make sure that the information's out there.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank
you. Thank you. And have a lovely night. Enjoy. I think, you said you were getting pizza. I don't know.
Hard to hear.
Still hot.
It's all good.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, wasn't that interview just riveting? Genuinely.
Really
Genuinely,
even though Pat sounds like he's not being genuine.
Listen, I have a problem.
It's concerning that even on the podcast, you have to clarify genuine.
Listen, I just want to make it very clear that I have a lot of problems, and one of them is the tone of my voice.
Oh, just the tone? Well, anyway, we really appreciate having Erin's time. It was really insightful and wonderful to speak one-on-one with someone who is so involved in the queer LGBTQ community and providing so much information for everyone out there.
I thought one of the most, the entire interview was riveting, but one of the most interesting tidbits that she mentioned was one of the first stories ever written down, like, as soon as humans could like write things down, was about a transgender priestesses. Yes. And I was like, wow, I did not know that. That was lovely.
I think she also mentioned that there was a transgender empress in the Roman Empire.
I think it was like, well, listen to the interview for more specifics in case we bastardize anything that we talked about. But it was so, it sounds like, not reductive, but it sounds so like, of course it was, but it was very inspiring. Like it was genuinely moving to hear someone talk about something that A, they're so passionate about, and B, they're so knowledgeable on. And she's also a great orator. She's a great speaker.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an adult moment. It flowed very nicely. And Matt, I'm sure, will put links to all of the socials that she mentioned
yes.
in the description of the pod and the video description, wherever you're finding this little pod. But really quickly, before we wrap up, well, because we didn't really do it in the beginning of the episode, did we want to just do a quick little catch up between us girlfriends?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Here's a good question for y'all. What are y'all's pride plans? Yeah, you got anything fun going on?
Oh, God. I have two, Saturday and Sunday of Pride. Saturday I have a party I'm going to, and Sunday I believe we're all trying to do something.
Yes.
Yes.
Just to hang out in New York, obviously, for the parade and maybe just vibe. But besides that, though, I'm trying to keep my time, and people keep trying to steal it from me, and I'm like gripping it from their cold, dead hands.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's mostly what I'm doing for Pride, and of course, I'm doing this lovely podcast with you two.
Wow! Congrats.
You
Congrats
bitch.
for doing this podcast with us.
Jackie, any plans for you?
First of all, I went out on record that was intended neither genuine or disingenuous. It just
So
It
Schrodinger's
wasn't.
genuinity.
Schrodinger's genuinity?
Schrodinger's genuinity, yes.
Genuineness, maybe?
Yeah. Jackie.
Genuinity. Interesting.
I don't know why it just made me think of Miss Congeniality. There's something there. The words are linked.
There's something
head.
there. There's something there.
Congenial.
My Pride plans this Saturday. I am probably going to a local Pride event. This past Sunday.
I thought we were hanging out on Saturday.
Yeah. We are.
Okay.
Genuine.
So you're doing the Pride event first, then hang out with us, I guess.
Yeah, the Pride event is like just during the day. So I'm gonna
The Pride event is hanging out with us. That's just what it is.
80% of our friend group. So I'm going to the local like Pride thing for a little bit, and then just hanging out with my gays. And then yeah, we have our Sunday thing in a few weeks. There was something else. Oh, the Philly Pride was this past weekend as well, which I didn't get a chance to go to.
You
but
didn't invite me?
They didn't even go.
To it. Hey,
you want to come somewhere I'm not going?
Yeah. I didn't even know about it until like 3 p.m. on Saturday or Sunday.
3
One of
p.m.
those days.
C3PO.
BB-88. Wait.
What? Who?
What's his name?
BB-8.
BB-8.
BB-88.
BB-88. Anyway, that's all my Pride plans.
Matt, what are your Pride plans?
Hanging out with you two and our friend Sam.
Okay.
We're all going to Pride together. @_Sam Mills. Go check them out. They're a cosplayer. They're lovely.
Cosplayer.
They're very good. They're very good.
One of the
Very
best
good.
cosplayers I know, actually, like that I've seen ever. So,
I saw their.
There's only 2 cosplayers.
but like among seeing cosplayers
I'm
when we go to
kidding.
cons,
Sam is incredible.
yeah.
They did some Demon Slayer cosplay recently.
Yeah.
One of them was a Kaza, and one was oh, what's that guy's name? The guy with the sword with eyes all over it.
Oh, yeah. I don't follow Demon Slayer, but I know I know the cosplay
Yeah.
you mean.
Great cosplays.
Oh,
Beautiful gowns.
beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But yes, we're all going to New York City Pride. And if any of our listeners are listening, we'll be there. Hit us up.
Oh, I think actually I forgot to mention this. 2 of Ross's friends, who are lovely folks, are also going to be at New York City Pride. So we'll have to see what they're up to.
Are we gonna meet them?
I mean, if we want, yeah.
Why don't you
Say
just
hi,
meet me in the middle? Maren Morris with Zed and
Is that
Gray.
sad? Is there anything else you want to talk about before we sign out this lovely episode?
I went to my end of
Here we
season
go.
party for my volleyball team,
Yeah.
my volleyball
Yeah.
division, and Alaska the drag queen was there, and I lost my mind.
Wait, where was the party at? Did you just like go
Uh,
out?
It was they hosted at Sony Hall near
Oh,
Times
fun.
Square, and Alaska was there. Alaska's one of my favorite drag queens, and she's booked for this gig, but like she doesn't really know obviously what, like, she knows what volleyball is as a sport, but she's not, she came out with an inflatable beach ball and she goes, "Look, a volleyball," and she smacks it into the stage and she goes, "Yeah, do you guys like my volleyball jersey?" And it's like a football jersey that's been cut to like a crop top.
Stop.
And it's just funny because she's like so in on the fact that she doesn't know. Like
Yes.
she's gonna give a
She's
lovely
leaning
performance,
into
but
it,
she's
yeah.
leaning in, and she did Padum Padum. She
Of
did Let
course.
Loose. She did her verse from Reggie Wrote You from Drag Race. It was, and there were some local girls. Laguna Blue was there. Laguna Blue sang live, which was lovely. Laguna Blue has an amazing voice. And yeah, I got to see Carly Jepsen before her, Haley Williams before her. So it's just been, this month has been just
You've been
all
seeing
women.
so many people, but you didn't see Taylor Swift.
But not us.
I could. First of all, I'm seeing you right now. Second of all, I'm seeing you later, and I'm seeing you later again. I'm seeing so much of you, but I couldn't see Taylor Swift, because Taylor Swift is too expensive.
Wait, so you guys booked Alaska? She's like a big name drag queen, right? You just like
Yeah,
booked
she's
her?
huge. Yeah. Well, I didn't, but the
Fucking
division,
cool,
the group,
though.
the group
Well,
did.
that's so
Yeah.
cool. That's
Well,
so cool.
she really likes. She's not from New York. I think she's
Uh-huh.
from Pennsylvania originally, but
Oh.
and she lives in California. But she
And her name is
loves.
Alaska.
Yes. Hey, girls, my name Alaska. I got a tiny little question to ask you. But she loves New York drag. Particularly, she loves being in Brooklyn for $3 bill. So it was nice to see her there.
Oh yes, Alaska Thunderfuck. I thought that was
5,000. Alaska
Oh, I'm
Thunderfuck
so
5,000.
sorry.
Wow, that's
I
an
left off.
amazing name.
Oh, she's from Erie.
Yeah, Erie.
Lake
Um,
Erie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was right.
That's the one part of PA that is not technically landlocked because literally like a little sliver touches Lake Erie. Speaking of drag queens, Roz and I have been watching Game Changer Make Some Noise on Dropout TV. And in one of their episodes, they've been doing this kind of like Survivor-esque mini series, so to speak. They had Laganja Estranja on. She was so fucking funny.
I love
She
Miss
was so fucking
Ganja.
funny. Roz was teasing it. Roz was like, "Oh, you're gonna like the next episode," and just from the thumbnail, I was like, "Is that a drag queen?" Roz, is there a drag queen in the next episode? And they were like, "How did you do?"
She loves marijuana too.
Yes.
She's big on.
Mm.
She's like,
Yes.
if it ain't green, what's
Advocate.
the line?
She came out in green.
Yeah, she says like, if it ain't green, I'm not interested.
I ate too much weed.
She was very funny.
Anthony.
Very funny.
Not that he'll hear.
All right, we can go ahead and wrap up now. So thank you, everybody, for listening to this lovely episode of the What Did the Gays Think podcast. One of our more productive episodes, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
We had our shit together.
Yeah.
Professional.
And a huge thank you once again to Erin Reed
Yes.
for providing so much of her very important and demanded time to help give us a little bit of enlightenment, a little bit of joy. Hopefully spread that to you guys as well.
Yeah. Also, we do another podcast called Under
We
Queer.
do.
Called Under Queer Review. We do. Yes.
We do.
Lol, I said do. We do another podcast called Under Queer Review, where we review the latest and greatest in queer media. I believe. Oh no, this episode will come out first. Okay, so we have another Under Queer Review coming out. I believe we've probably spoiled it enough, but we're doing The Owl House.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing a review of The Owl House. So that will come out in a few weeks. And the last one we did was Call Me By Your Name, and that was also a lovely one.
I love that movie.
I heard it and I was like, it almost sounded genuine, but I know for a fact it was not.
Can never tell.
Tee-hee-hee-hee-hee.
Tee-hee. And also, we stream on Twitch as well. We stream at Pride Empire. We play games on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where we go ahead and we build, a little Twitch kingdom every time. And we ask our viewers to join us, and we give them some fun roles, and they can interact with us. Some people get the Jester. Some people get the Commander. So we give them little fun roles for them to play in the kingdom. And it's a lot of fun. So come hang out with us on Twitch at Pride Empire. And is that it? What did I miss?
No, I think that was everything.
You hit it all.
Under Queer Review, this podcast, obviously, and plugging all of Erin Reed's wonderful platforms. That's everything.
Yeah.
Amazing. Then thank you, everybody. And I am Mac Lubeck.
And I'm gonna keep it very professional.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Alaska, Patrick.
Oh, and I'm a fan of Erin Reed, whose time I am very thankful for.
Great. Goodbye.
Bye.